You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers tell their stories on what they sacrificed to create the music you love.
It's just your genuine appreciation on a deep soul level for what artists do. And I love hearing that.
I'm your host, Cello.
What's up? This is J-Rock, and I'm right here. I'm chilling on the Bedroom Beethovens podcast. That's what it is. Let's go.
Welcome, people of Earth, to another episode of the podcast. Travel with me as we head alongside the Mississippi River to the unincorporated community of Hillaryville, Louisiana. My guest this week is...
Hello, my name is Durand Jones. I'm from a small little town called Hillaryville, a.k.a. the 5th Ward, a.k.a. H-Ville, Killer Hill, Vivid, down in the bayou in Louisiana. I'm known for being on stage with the band, The Indications. We've been together for about 10 years. It's been a wild ride. Music is one of my purposes, but my aim is to be an artist above all things else. And so that's my goal in life. And that's why I'm here today talking with Mr. Cello.
Say a man is but his wrong. It's morning in America, but I can't see the dawn. Congressmen in Washington receive their brief and brew, while Letty fills the pipelines in a Detroit County school. And I think of my grandmother, how she told me to be strong. It's morning in America, but I can't see the dawn.
On his debut solo album, Wait Till I Get Over, Durand Jones lays us several courses and flavors of sound that are all distinctly southern and black. Rhythms heavy with raw Delta grit, bright exhalations of church spirituals, even tender cadent spoken word. Now, I've been a fan of Durand for a number of years, and I'm familiar with his music, but now I want to have a conversation about his life so I can figure out, or not, if he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, enduring with a concept until it takes the proper form. So we talk about everything from growing up in Hillaryville to revisiting it 9 years ago in the series of events that have shaped him, has shaped this debut album, and what shapes his future. But before we dive into all that, would you guys simply do me a favor and subscribe to the podcast so you make sure you never miss an episode? You don't know who I will interview next, as all the genres seem to blend into each other. But what remains the same is the quality of research and the passion that is poured into wanting to learn from these extraordinary human beings. So if you like what you hear, tell a friend. And if you want to take it one step further, I have set up a Patreon at patreon.com/bedroombeethovens. Give a buck or two to gain access to early episodes and more. In turn, I keep this podcast a labor of love without corporate ads filling up the airwaves. Now picture a small one-town lane with cow pastures founded by Hillary Rice, a preacher, a politician, an ex-slave, who left descendants who worked in the sugar industry, and there a young man named Durand Jones is living his childhood there, not knowing that someday he would tour the globe and touch the hearts of millions. Episode 187. Let's get into it. My whole motivation for having this conversation is I caught wind of the new album and I learned about your roots, and I became fascinated by Hillaryville because the Wikipedia page is 2 sentences long. Nobody on Reddit's talking about it. If I go on Trulia and look for homes, like what they look like, only homes in Darrow and Gonzales show up. It's like a place that's been around since the 1800s and it's still a little secret, kind of like HEB.
I feel the same exact way with the HEB thing. Living in Texas for the past 2 years, has been very enlightening. And the best ways possible is by discovering how amazing HEB is. Jesus Christ.
I
I
love
was
that.
just talking with I was just talking with you about, our lunches, man. I had chicken noodle soup from HEB and you in Houston all across the way and you had meatball sub from HEB. It's just that's just how amazing that place is. I just love it that much. I really do. So it's a bummer that the rest of the world can't have it, but I'm mad that, I got it right here.
Oh, absolutely. But if I want to be true to the area, I got to pronounce Hillaryville with no L's. So how do I say it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, indeed. Hillaryville.
Hareville. I
Yep.
love that. So for those that don't know, it's a freedman's town. So when 4 million slaves were freed, they didn't know where they would go, what they would eat, or how they would survive. So many decided to remain on plantations, which is crazy, but I get it. Because like if you've been in prison for 40, 50 years, you might be scared to go in the free world, so you want to go back to what you're used to. But my question is, maybe Hareville suffered this fate because just because a bunch of free slaves get reparations, including a city, that doesn't mean that they know how to run a city. They had to build schools and a city hall. And when they set up shop, do they allow white people to live in their cities? Are they afraid? And this wasn't that long ago. It was just over 100 years ago. So maybe that's why a lot of these freedmen towns haven't thrived, because you had people given gifts of land and founded cities, and maybe they didn't know how to build a city or run a city. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I really do feel like Hillaryville or Hillaryville, whichever one. I really feel like that place in itself is really something special when it comes down to what happened after the American Civil War and the plantation that they came from. The plantation owner was known to be like a $1 million sugar man. He had 550 slaves, 10,000 acres of sugar cane, and not only that, he had 3 sugar mills on the plantation as well. So he was not only having free labor working and tilling the land, but also industrially as well to process and to package the sugar, which is so interesting to me. When I hear folks argue and say that slavery was becoming out of fashion because of the Industrial Revolution, it's like, no, like corporate America laid their foundations on how to exploit folks from the plantation where some of my ancestors once worked, and so that really like hits home to me. But nevertheless, around 8 men or so received the reparations to create a place. And I always wonder to myself, okay, these 8 men got together and decided to, create a community, and immediately they decided to build schools and places to worship, hotels, all these different businesses in this little microcosm of 500 people. And I just imagine like what would have happened if everyone, every man, woman, and child got their just due, got their reparations as well. Just seeing like what those 8 folks could do and how they could build community out of it. I think it would have benefited us all as Americans if everyone got their reparations and got what was rightly theirs. So yeah, it's I knew that whenever I started this project, started um this this record to tell my story, that I had to start there because this thing began way before I was even here. So I really had to do some research and do some digging and really see like what happened here, and how did that lead to me being a product of that place.
Well, you were born an hour east of it. What
Yeah.
prompted the move so early on? Like, why would your dad move back to a city that only has cow pastures and 750 people? I mean, there's not much for a young kid to do. Why not stay in a city of opportunity like Baton Rouge or New Orleans?
I think it was because of money. My dad My dad was living with my mom until it got bad with drug abuse, and my mom left right around the time I was like maybe 2.5 or 3 years old. It's such a faint memory now, like it's so distant, and I only have like a few of them, and they feel like dreams. But I can remember like early on where she would come and leave for a while and come back for a couple of days and leave. And yeah, so I guess it just got to the point to where, yeah, he just felt better being home. My grandmother lived a street away. So anytime he would work, either she would come to the trailer where we stayed and she would watch us until he got back, or he would drop us off at her house and she would watch us. Um, it's been really interesting, and I don't know if this is like offensive or not, but whenever my grandmother passed, she left some journals around the house, and it's been really cool just reading how a 3-year-old reading about 3-year-old Durand watching me while I was 3 over the weekends because my daddy was at work or something. It's just puts things into context for me. But I think that's why he wanted to go back to Hillaryville. And honestly, I don't think it was necessarily the worst idea at the time.
You said that this record first began in 2014 while visiting your dad. What prompted you to go back? Did your father still live in that area and you were just visiting and you both made a conscious decision to return to the roots, or what was that about?
I had just finished grad school, and um I had just finished the coursework of my grad school stuff. I still had exams to take, but all the bulk of it, like 90% of what was required of me, was done. And so I packed up all of my stuff. I was like, I'm leaving Indiana. I'm going to go to Louisiana for like a month or two. And then I'm going to try to go somewhere, go to a city or figure something out. I wanted to get out of Louisiana. And so my first day back in Louisiana, I went to go visit my dad. And and I really say like that day was the start of this record for me because it was the day that really changed the it changed the trajectory of where I was going in my life. Before then, I thought of myself to be a classical musician, even though I had recorded the stuff with the indications by then. All that first record was already done and recorded, but I thought to myself that no, I was going to be a classical musician. And I was thinking, of working in a way of archiving or something along those lines. And yeah, so I had no intentions of performing um, contemporary music, definitely not singing. I was really singing during this time just for fun. I wasn't really taking it fully seriously. But nevertheless, I was at my dad's place and I get this phone call from this um, this place. I should back up a little bit. I was also auditioning during this time as a backup plan for the military to do like military bands or something along those lines too. And it was going pretty well, but my background check didn't work out. And so they gave me a number to call. I left a message or whatever. And they called me back and they told me that I had all of this stuff on my record, distributing a Schedule 1 substance, I don't even remember what it all was, but it was really really a shock to me, and immediately I thought that my life was over with. I knew exactly what happened. There was someone, and this was the first and only time I've ever done this, and I still wonder what happened, and I want to do some kind of sort of investigation on my own to see. But but back in my last month of grad school, this person that I knew begged me for some of my prescribed medicine, my Adderall, and I gave it to him. I didn't really think too much about it. He told me that he needed it for because he didn't have any money, and he needed groceries and all of this stuff, and I didn't have money either. I was broke as hell, so I gave it to him, and he had an undercover cop with him, and I'll never know. I'll never know the truth if he knew that lady was an undercover cop or he didn't know that she was an undercover cop. But I don't know. I just felt like I got threw under the bus. And I felt like, okay, I can't use my bachelor's of music education degree now. I can't teach kids music because I have this on my record. I can't do what I plan to do either in like an archiving capability or military thing with classical music because I won't pass a background check. I really felt like my life was over. I felt like I was really done for. And I'll never forget because that day was so hot and it was like a hot September summer day in Louisiana. And I like literally like passed out from like crying. And I woke up and it was raining. And I felt like, and it may be an egotistical thing, but I felt like the world or the earth was sympathetic in some sense. And that gave me like a little bit of hope. And from there, moving like weeks ahead, that's where like the start of Lord Have Mercy came. Like I was working this crappy ass minimum wage job, making $7.45 an hour or some bull crap like that. Like not even having enough money to I couldn't even like pay my gas. Like I'm working 2 weeks. I digress, but and I'm sorry if I'm rambling. Man, yeah, I really hated working that minimum wage job because they would write you like to work like 39, 38, 37 hours a week, right under the 40 mark, just so they couldn't give you health insurance. And I felt like that was really unfair and really mean. And also you would get taxed really hard to the point where you would make like $140, $160 every 2 weeks. How am I supposed to live off of that? And it felt really embarrassing, like seeing my friends who knew that I went to a grad school and I went to a really good grad school, but I wasn't showing anything for it. And it just felt really bad. And so I would work late on that really crappy minimum wage job on Saturdays, and Sunday my grandmother would wake up, knock on the door, and she would be like, "Hey, Durand, do you want to go to church?" And I would always, decline. And that was like the start of Lord Have Mercy for me. Thinking about my mom, how she couldn't tell me all of this heartbreak and all of these feelings that I was feeling, and Gran like asking me to go to church with her, but I'm too tired and I just don't even know if I believe in God anymore. But like, if there is a God, like, please, like, show some mercy on me, man. I am trying here.
Oh, my mama couldn't tell me about the feeling I feel. And 9:49 on a Sunday morning still. Grand's all dressed up and she's headed to church. But I'm in bed tired from last night's work. So Lord, please have mercy on me. the street telling people the news. But what they don't really know is that she happened to clue round the way and up above. Some folks flying high, see sad smiles in their eyes. They ain't doing fine. Oh Lord, please have mercy on me.
Do you feel like you had a target on your back at the time? Like 10 years ago, how many people like you, meaning up north in Indiana, how many Southern African Americans are pursuing degrees in classical music? Is it uncommon?
Yeah. Yeah. I was a little surprised getting up there um to Indiana and seeing that like it was only like 4% African Americans. In the school, it was in the Jacob School, it was even smaller than that, the margins. And I will say they have been proactively trying to do better in that sense. But it was like a very small handful of us. I would say, out of all of the grad students while I was there, there had to be hundreds. There was maybe about 20 that were black. And so I think that really played a part on it. I know that, and this is where it all becomes conspiracy. And this is where I need to do some investigating. But I do know that the Bloomington police, if they catch students doing illegal activities, mainly students of color, they kind of force them into these like CI positions where they're like these secret criminal investigators, where I guess they give police like access or a way into meeting drug dealers or something. And I don't know if that guy who was asking me and berating me for those pills was a CI, but I wonder if he just like targeted me to, I don't know, get some heat off of himself, because there's been stories that have broken since that. There's colleges throughout the country where police make student CIs, and these CIs get caught and they get killed. And so that's where the conspiracy is to me. Like I don't know what that guy's motive was and why he chose me, and I still wonder to this day. And there's some times where I still cry about that shit, because I didn't get my chance to do it how I really wanted to do it. And they say like make plans and watch the universe laugh. And I do feel like I have found purpose in what I'm doing, but it still really hurts and it still stings, and it's still something, even though it happened nearly 10 years ago, I'm still trying to get over.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I was looking at some of the mentors and professors like Dr. Wright or Otis Murphy, and it's crazy because they aren't just showing up to a classroom teaching. They have toured over 25 countries. They have doctorate degrees. They played at Carnegie Hall. They performed on over 15 recordings. You know that whole adage, like those that can't do, teach? That's not the case with these OGs. They walk the walk. So it was a fostering environment aside from those unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. And working with Otis was like my Cinderella story. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was really the ticket out of Louisiana for me. And that was absolutely life-changing. And for that, I will always be indebted to Otis. Much love to you. I don't even know if he even remember me. It's been like nearly 10 years now. Oh my goodness.
I'm sure everybody's seeing your face on billboards and everything, and they know. They secretly know. So the journey kind of started with all of these these little sub bands, But what were some of the growing pains of essentially joining Charlie Patton's War, humming it and transforming it into your own group? Because I don't know how rare it is for the lead singer to be the last puzzle piece when the rest of the band has a rapport and existing synergy. Do you approach it like, I'll just slide in and get in where I can fit in, or it has to take on a whole new dynamic in order to work?
Honestly, whenever I met those guys, and it was the first sound check, whenever I got to see them in action, And I was maybe just singing one cover, like singing Dock of the Bay or something like that. And I was like, whoa, these guys have a synchronicity. They have this rhythm about themselves that I don't want to, for lack of a better word, fuck it up. I had to find my path through this through this thing. And I think the most frustrating part was really trying to get people to trust me, because it's really easy to fall in line and sort of become a muse in a way, where like you're a tool um in the process of the music, um to the point to where, like you're not necessarily heard or being listened to, from a from a mindful standpoint. And so that was one thing that I really wanted to, once I felt it, I was like, I wanted to really get rid of that, and not let that fester and grow and become something more than what it was. And so with that, I had to learn how to I had to learn how to own it. I had to learn how to, in a way, in a sense, be a motherfucking diva. And I use that term very loosely, but I get it now. Like I totally get it. I don't work in a way where I'm like, oh, it's my way or the highway or something like that. But I definitely have learned that, there's times where you're gonna have to be the person to stand up for yourself, like, and you have to put your foot down and not let it go anywhere. And so that was like a big learning lesson for me, and that was a hard thing for me to learn. Um, Being so humble all the time and shit, but I think it made me better, and thus it made the band better.
Yeah, because you start out in the church choir too shy to sing, and then you wanted to be a saxophonist, and you've played in Rewind and Carter McFarland and Telegraph Salesman and Canary Quartet.
You really did your goddamn research.
Hey, I got to respect
Wow.
your time, man. So I did a little digging. There's a Jefferson Street Parade Band, the Soul Review, Rally's Revenge. So you tried to blend in the back of your church choir. I see this evolution, and here you are wearing a blazer with no shirt on the front cover of the new album, rocking gold chains, and you're front and center as a solo frontman, and that's a big deal. It's quite a journey. So I'm glad we.
Have you heard the record?
I've heard what is available to the public. If you want to slide me a private link, I won't say no.
I gotta, yeah. I really would love to slide you a private link of this, and maybe we could like have another talk, because I really appreciate talking to somebody who like really does their research or whatever, and I feel like we could have some good conversation on this music.
I even went back to the bedroom Beethoven days where you're at Connor Graham's house and listened to She's Kerosene, which was a cover by the Interrupters. Like I went way back, and it's all good music.
Wow.
It's all good music.
Wow, man.
And there's a reason why you hated minimum wage work, because your words, not mine. You said that being a singer is not intention, it's fate. And that's strong words. So when people buy this album, along with your previous bodies of work, you're suggesting that consumers are buying a project by a band that was destined to do the things that they're doing. They were put on this earth against their will to create. I think that's powerful.
Yes, man. I think purpose is everything, and realizing that. And for me, I want to be someone that can heal folks through music. And that may be cliche in some sense or some way, but I really do believe that that's my purpose with um that's my purpose with making music in this world. And hmm, yeah, man, it's something that I don't think I chose to do. I think it chose me, and it goes back to just the path that was laid, the curveball that was thrown my way. And I'm realizing that now, like what ultimately is my purpose and goal, and why I'm here on this earth. And I think that's to heal people through music.
So these curveballs. So now you're signed to a soul label that has Sharon Jones. She's in her 50s. Charles Bradley's in his 60s, and you're 29. And if you are 30, you're barely 30. So you're the young guy on the block.
Yeah, I'm 33.
But at the time, yeah. So like, do you get respect immediately from the vets because is the soul scene unforgiving or is it welcoming?
I've been getting mad love. I don't feel any animosity from the older folks. I never got to meet Sharon, but that's a day that I will never forget when she passed away. I was with Rewind at the time, singing with them and stuff, and playing saxophone. And my phone just kept buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. And I went to my car and I saw the news and just cried. I always felt like me and Sharon would be really good friends because we both like smoking weed. We both love to fish. And both of our favorite soul singers is Gladys Knight. And I feel like just having those three things, we could have just went fishing. I would have brought some good green, and we would have had a grand old time. And we would have had good fish fry afterwards too, baby. Yes, indeed. I never got to meet Charles either. And I was supposed to meet Charles at one gig, but he passed away, and that's a day I'll never forget either. But I'm really thankful for those two guys in particular because they laid really like the current groundwork for me to do what I'm doing. My introduction into meeting Blake, the guitar player from Charlie Patton's War and the Indications, my introduction to meeting him was him handing me a Charles Bradley CD, No Time for Dreaming, and me really falling in love with that record to the point to where I wanted to hang out with Blake and know more about who he was digging and liking music wise. I got to meet Lee Fields, and Lee has been like an absolute treasure and love in my life. Just a really awesome philosophical, great conversationalist. If you could ever get him on the podcast, man, he will drop some deep shit on you, I swear. He will. He will. I will say there's some of the younger guys though, and I get it when you're young, and mainly dudes, um, a certain type of dude, but I ain't gonna get into that. But mainly, they come onto the scene and they get a little recognition, and they're like, "This is my show. This is my thing. Like, I have to be the star. I have to make it happen." And I don't know, man. That shit gets old to me. It's like so old and tired to me. Like, this is not a competition. And we don't have to compete against one another. And I'm not trying to compete against nobody but myself. What the universe has for me is for me, baby. And what the universe has for you, I can't take it. I can't, no matter how hard I would love to have it, is for you, baby. So I need to not lose no sleep over it. I need to not, spend time stressing about it. And I wish some of these cats would see that and just not look at other bands as competition, but look at us as a collective, because there is enough for all of us to eat out here. There's definitely enough money for all of us to be getting paid out here, baby. So, and I won't say that it's a bunch of, but it's just, maybe one or two guys. So I'm just like, yeah, you got this vibe about you where it's a competition and you can keep all that energy over there. You know what I'm saying?
You've totally broadened my perspective, because I was thinking, because Sharon Jones, she didn't see success until her 40s, and Charles Bradley didn't see success until his 50s, that they would have chips on their shoulder. But I just think that they were just grateful to be doing what they were doing, and they don't care about the 20-year-olds competition and all that. So I think I see it in a different light now.
Oh yeah, man.
I love how there's no expiration date in soul and funk, because you don't really hear about rappers hitting it big in their 50s. Hip hop might be a young man's game where there's a lot of ego and all that, but I'm glad to hear that. And and maybe you didn't have an ego, or maybe there was a little bit of maybe even imposter syndrome, because when you put out the first Indications project, the label owner Terry believed in you guys more than yourselves. Meaning, when you record and cut the record, maybe you didn't all the way believe that it would sell out, which I think is unique, because usually, maybe even in hip hop, the artist believes in themselves so much that they have to spend all their money and time convincing the label and the CEO and the world. But you guys, it kind of worked the other way around.
It did. And we were scared out of our minds, baby. For real. Like, oh my goodness. I remember when Terry told us he was going to make 1,000 copies of the record. Blake called me. He was like, I don't think he's going to sell them 1,000 copies, and we're going to have to pay him back. And I was being so scared. I was like, oh my God.
Let's go cruising to the park, cruising after dark. Let's go out. Slow it down to 5 on an endless drive. Let's go out. Baby, let's cruise.
Like, will we have to pay him back? And then, getting the moving with Dead Oceans and doing like something in conjunction with Coal Mine Records with them. And then, hearing the number of records that they were about to print, we was like, there ain't no way. There ain't no way. And then a year later, like, we make the advance back, And so it was really perplexing and mind blowing, but it really goes to show, I don't know, if you have a humble heart and you just put your head down and do the work, expect, in a way, like, give it all, but I won't say expect nothing in return, because I definitely was expecting something in return, but like, don't expect it immediately. Sweat equity is definitely a thing in this industry, and I wish it wasn't so, in a way, because I'm lucky being someone who grew up poor, that the rest of my band didn't come from situations like that. I think if we all came from situations like where I came from, could we have, could sweat equity have been something so integral in our success? And I think about that a lot, and how, in a way, that was a privilege for me that I know a lot of folks don't necessarily get. But I do feel like, yeah, there's some, I really wish that aspect of, getting started and being in the industry wasn't so present, but there is something about just putting it right back into your business, your band, and not expecting anything. at least at the beginning.
Was there any regret when you guys started doing one-off shows like in 2016 and you guys went off in your own separate careers? Do you guys wish you would have just kept the momentum going?
I'm going to be transparent. At the beginning, the conversations were tough. I've always wanted everyone in the band to just reach for the motherfucking stars. Like, go for it. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that felt mutual within the nucleus of the band. And so it caused a little friction, but we're grown people. We talked it out and, we realized that this is healthy for us. And I think it's really important for all of us to do things outside of our little house, because we've built this beautiful house together. It's a lovely place and I love being in it, and I love, making art in our, in this beautiful world universe that we created. But I think it's really important that all of us leave the house, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and go out into the world and see how other people work and collaborate with other people and see what differences, how they work differently from the way we do, how they write songs differently, how they record differently, how they maybe process or look at art differently, and learn from that, grow from it, and then come back to the house with everything that you learned and all that knowledge that you've acquired. And I've definitely seen it with Aaron, with working with Dan Auerbach. I've seen it with Blake, he's been working with a lot of people out in LA. And also Steve Okonsky, our keyboard player. Shout out to Steve, who hit the Billboard traditional jazz and jazz top 10 on the debut of his new record, which I think all of those things are just like super important.
I'm somewhat of a creative too, man. Can I use you as a sounding board? Can I give you a creative suggestion? Would you hear me out?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the album and you make an alternate cover similar to Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City, where he put the old minivan on the cover, and you put the old green 1993 Honda Civic on there.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Wait, how do you know about the Honda Civic, dog? Dude, you just took me back. I don't know. There's like some memories that like I can smell them, and I could just smell that car, bro. Oh my God. I could hear like my grandmother's music. Oh man.
I'll let you sit with that, man. You don't have to give me any credit. You can have that idea.
Oh man, I gotta find one, dude. She gave it to my sister, and my sister just like tore it apart. She wrecked it.
Oh
So
no!
I know,
Oh
dude. That car would be so sexy on the road now with that little light lime green. Oh man, I would
It's in style.
zip and zap all through in that car, bro.
Oh man! All right, but I guess before we wrap things up on the record, I'll throw you a fun one. And this is so people can kind of understand your taste in music a little bit. If you had to pick between Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions and Where I'm Coming From, which one edges out on top?
You motherfucker. Oh man, what? How do you know these things? Like you're kind of blowing my mind here. These have been like my two favorite Stevie records for years now. Years.
So I guess it just depends on the mood and the day and the weather outside.
I guess. Oh man, I will say Hotter Than July is kind of easing its way up there. But if I had to pick between these two, I would have to say Where I'm Coming From. I'm gonna go with Where I'm Coming From.
Good choice. Good choice. It's always fascinating to me. Like Intervisions is like it's not his second album or his third. It's his 16th album, and it's heralded as like one of his best work.
Yeah.
I mean, to get 16 albums deep and it's like some of your best work, I mean, you're a legend. So
I mean, yes. Incredible.
I think a lot of people are going to say, you know, I really wish, you know, that I wish in your future you're going to get a ton of Grammys. But after hearing a little bit of this redemption story, I hope you get to a point so big that the university in Indiana invites you back and gives you like an honorary doctorate. Like they can't deny you any longer. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, man, that would be the icing on the cake. Oh my goodness.
Well, you start touring next month, and at the top of the month in May, that album drops, and now what you have is a very exciting, fulfilling, and productive year ahead of you. And I appreciate you carving time out of your week for me and sharing your story. And if you hold true to what you say, we could do part 2, 3, 4, 5. You're always welcome back on the show.
Word up, man. Yep, I just sent you the link to the record, so I'm excited to hear what you think.
Oh, we'll definitely be in touch, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Much love.